Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Wisconsin Supplier Diversity Program webinar. Just a few quick notes before we get started. This webinar is being recorded so that we can make it available to folks who are not able to attend today. Later in the program, we will open it up for questions, but please feel free to submit questions as you think of them via the chat function. If you have additional questions or you would like follow-up outside of the webinar, you can feel free to reach out to us either at the contact information that's been listed in the presentation or at our email address at doacommunications@wisconsin.gov. Lastly, tomorrow we plan to send everyone a copy of the presentation along with a link to a recording of this webinar and some other materials. And we'll also make the recording available through YouTube and social media. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our co-host, Senator LaTanya Johnson. Senator, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone that's involved in making this such a great occasion. I am so thankful to the department for agreeing to do this webinar. I've heard from so many businesses the importance of getting information in order to help our minority and women-owned businesses thrive. So I know that this webinar is packed full of information for our business owners. So I will not hold this presentation up any longer, but thank you so very much for all of you being here today to get this information.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tondra Davis, and I'm the director of the Supplier Diversity Program. And pardon me a minute while I get our presentation running here. Can everyone see my screen? That's important. All right, great. So I'm the director of the Supplier Diversity Program, and today we really want to talk to you about supplier diversity and contracting opportunities within the state of Wisconsin. Our agenda will be, first of all, I will talk about state business certifications, and then we'll have our State Bureau of Procurement talk to us about opportunities that exist within the goods and services industry for the state of Wisconsin, followed by someone from architecture and engineering talking about the opportunities there, and then construction will talk about their opportunities. At the end, we will allow time for questions. So feel free to put your questions either in the chat or you can do them live at the end. In any case, we will take all questions at the end of our presentations. So when it comes to supplier diversity, our mission is that we certify minority-owned business enterprises, and you may have heard some of these acronyms. So that's what an MBE is. We also certify service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, the DVBs, and women-owned businesses, WBEs. And by certification, we mean that we just authenticate that the ownership is from that diverse population. And by certifying them, it provides a better opportunity for them to do business with the state of Wisconsin and other government entities, as well as private businesses. So our certification requirements, here's a general overview. First of all, for all of our certifications, MBE, WB, as well as DVB, we require that the business is at least 51% owned, managed, and controlled by that diverse population. Also, the business needs to be serving a useful business function. That means that they have customers other than the state of Wisconsin, right? And then another requirement is that the federal, they have submitted federal business taxes. For an MBE, you need to have at least 1 year. WB and DVB, according to our administrative code, you need at least 3 years. However, we do have special circumstances in each of these certifications. So it's best to contact us if you have less than the number of years required here, and we can see if you could qualify a different way. We have no application fee for our MBE program, but there is an application fee of $150 for both WBE and DVB. And once you're certified, it is for a 3-year period. And that 3 years for WB and DVB, I like to think, it's about $1 a week for certification if you're looking to add value. There are benefits to being certified with the state of Wisconsin. First of all, for our MBEs and DVBs, we have a permissive 5% bid preference. And so what that means is Wisconsin typically buys on low bid. So if you have a $100 bid come in as the low bid on a project, the MBE or DVB can bid up to $105 or 5% more and still win the bid. So that's a very, very lucrative benefit of certification. Also, the state of Wisconsin has purchasing goals. With our MBEs, it's 5%, and with our DVBs, it is a 1% purchasing goal. The state wants to do that amount of business with those groups. And if you look at our fiscal year 21, we spent $3 billion. So 5% of $3 billion is $150 million. 1% of $3 billion is $30 million. So it's quite a lot of money that we're looking to get in those populations. Your business will also be listed in our database of certified suppliers. And so this is how public corporate buyers who don't have their own certification program, they oftentimes will go to our site and they will look for those diverse suppliers. As I said, being certified is really just authenticating your diverse ownership. So, and you can also receive a logo. And so here are the logos here. We have one for each of our certification types, and you can probably display that, that you are certified with the state of Wisconsin. While I would like every business owner on tonight to become certified with us, you really have to ask a question, is state certification right for you? Because there are numerous other certifications you could have. First of all, a question to ask yourself is your service or product something the state purchases or could purchase? Think about if you're selling VCRs, maybe there might be one of our state agencies or campuses who is interested, and they likely would not buy very many of them. So becoming certified, that may not, in that business industry, that may not make sense for you. Also, is your business capable of providing quality products, services on a large scale? Think about the state of Wisconsin. We have 72 counties. We're quite large. We have 50 plus agencies and campuses that that you might have to be providing that service or product for. And so are you ready, willing, and able to do that? Are you willing to share your business information? And in order for us to determine whether or not your business qualifies, we do have to get proprietary information, look at your taxes, look at other documents to authenticate that your business is owned by the diverse population we're looking at. And then finally, do you understand you will need to put effort into winning state contracts? Just because you become certified does not mean that you will automatically get state opportunities. What happens is you will have to actually bid on those. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So if you do decide to apply for certification, here is the process. If you go online to our website, supplierdiversity.wi.gov, we have under every certification type, we have a self-assessment or eligibility quiz. And then we ask, the easiest way to do it is just to gather the checklist documents, and I'll show you those in just a moment. And then you can just go online and apply and upload those documents and be done with the process, submit the application. We review applications within 30 days. And once you're approved, that's when the work will begin. So first, let me show you what our checklist documents are. So this is one for our MBE certification. And you can see, first of all, we need evidence that you're in that diverse category, evidence that you are a minority for MBE or a woman or a service disabled or a veteran. And then we would need information regarding the ownership. And these are the documents and what you can do, the things that you have, you can upload those And the ones that you don't have, we're not asking that you upload them. We can have a conversation if we do need more information to prove whatever section. So this is the control section. This is active management and useful business function. And then we also have information for any business that might be out of state if they could qualify. So with that, once you are certified, the work then begins. And the work, by work, I mean you need to network. So you have your product, you have your service that you are wanting to sell with the state of Wisconsin. We have 50 plus agencies, as I mentioned before, and campuses. And so you would network to try to figure out who needs your product, who is buying what you have. And you need to locate the bid opportunities and bid on them. One thing about being certified, the Supplier Diversity Program, each week we send out a bulletin that shows the new opportunities that have come forth. And so you would be able to look at those, as well as you can go on our website. On our front page, we have access for you to look at what the opportunities are. Then of course you need to win the project, you need to win the contract by either having the low bid or using the bid preference and having a competitive bid that could get you in if you're MBE or DVB. And then finally, of course, you need to perform. And that means completing the project to the satisfaction of the agency or campus, of course, being on time, giving quality. And if any of these things go wrong, all during the whole process, make sure that you're communicating. Another way to leverage your certification is by teaming or partnering, subcontracting. So, you know, perhaps a prime contractor got the actual project with the state, but you could do a portion of that project. So making yourself known, networking with them could help you get opportunity with the state. And then finally, we have our joint ventures, and that's where one of our diverse businesses, they could leverage their bid preference and join with perhaps a prime contractor, someone who's been a prime contractor in the past, and work with them to form an entity. And they, as that new entity, go after state projects where they can use the experience of the prime contractor versus the experience or the bid preference of the diverse certified company, and work together to get a contract. So that is, in a nutshell, how our business certification program operates. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. This slide deck will be made available, but here's my contact information, as well as phone number. And with that, we're going to have our State Bureau of Procurement Director, Cheryl Edgington, talk to us about goods and services contracts. Cheryl?
Excellent, thank you, Tandra. Yes, Tandra said, my name is Cheryl Edgington. I'm the Director of the State Bureau of Procurement, and I'm going to talk to you today about goods and services contracts that are issued on behalf of the state agencies and campuses. So when we talk about goods and services that are used by state agencies and campuses, we're talking about those goods and services that are needed to maintain operations and to fulfill the missions of those agencies and campuses. So here is just a list. It's not an exhaustive list by any means, but a list of kind of the top categories of spend in the state. So not probably surprising at all. One of our top categories of spend is in information technology. So that includes services, includes the contracted staff that work on those projects, as well as the hardware and software that we need. Additionally, we have a category devoted to social, medical, and client services. So for those agencies like our Department of Health Services or our Department of Corrections or our Department of Veterans Affairs, who have facilities or institutions that house people, they need to purchase the social, medical, and client services required to assist those individuals. Additionally, we purchase a lot in food and related services for those same individuals. Additionally, we have a category of spend for pharmaceuticals and chemicals, so to treat any medical issues that we may need to for any of the folks that are in any of the state institutions, the housing, or even on campuses for our students. Additionally, we have the state owns and operates its own fleet of vehicles. And so there is a cost not just to purchase those vehicles, but then also to maintain those vehicles. The maintenance, the fuel is a significant cost as well. We then talk about sort of these other professional services. So we might have a need to bring in a consultant for a project. We might have a need to hire accountants to help with a certain project. So any of those kinds of services are kind of defined by this category of kind of other professional services. And last, but certainly not least, is spend related to facilities maintenance and repair. So as Tandra mentioned, the state of Wisconsin has agencies and campuses spread all throughout Wisconsin in a lot of different buildings, and it costs money to maintain those buildings. So this is just a very high level overview of the types of goods and services that we're talking about today. So when we have a need to purchase a good or service, how we make that purchase is determined primarily by the amount of the purchase. So anything that is less than $5,000 is made using what we refer to as best judgment. So our agencies and campuses would not be required to conduct a solicitation or any kind of competition in that scenario, and they would be able to purchase directly from the vendor that's best able to meet their needs. If the cost of the purchase is between $5,000 and $50,000, then the agencies must conduct what we refer to as a simplified bid. They must get a minimum of 3 quotes, and those quotes can be obtained verbally. They could be obtained from a website, or they could even be obtained in writing as kind of a quote issued to vendors. There's no requirement that those opportunities be posted online, but we do have the ability to do so, and I'll talk about that here in the next couple slides. But if the purchase is greater than $50,000, agencies are required to follow an official solicitation process, and that is either a request for bid or a request for proposal. Those official opportunities are required by statute to be posted online, and all the vendors who register through the state's bidding system, which we're going to talk about here in another slide, will receive automatic notifications when those opportunities are available. So when I talk about how to register for those opportunities, I'm highly encouraging everyone here today who might not already be registered to go ahead and take that step, because it costs nothing, but it allows you to see those opportunities that you might not have otherwise seen if you weren't registered. So where are these opportunities posted? So we're going to talk about the 2 main systems that the state has for posting these opportunities. We'll go out to each of them, but before we do, I just kind of want to quickly differentiate between the 2. So eSupplier is the newer of our 2 systems. It's been, we implemented eSupplier about 5 years ago, and it is where state agencies post all of those official solicitations that I just talked about. You may also see simplified bids posted on this system. But this system allows not only for you to view and access all of those bids, but it also allows you to submit responses to those bids online. So it's a truly electronic bidding system. VendorNet, on the other hand, is the older of the 2 systems. VendorNet has been around since the early 90s. VendorNet is still being used by UW campuses to post their solicitations. It is also available for use by municipalities who are not required to use it, but can make use of it. So there are solicitation opportunities on VendorNet, but the only difference is it's not an electronic bidding system, so you can't submit an electronic response. But VendorNet also hosts a lot of additional information and great resources, including, forms. It allows you to search all available contracts in the state of Wisconsin and just to view some general procurement information. So let's just go ahead and take a look at each of those quickly. So we'll go out to eSupplier first. So Tandra, can you share your screen with eSupplier?
Sure, give me just a moment.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so this is the homepage of eSupplier. So what's going to be important here is that big blue button across the top that says Wisconsin Bidder Portal, and that's where we're going to go to next. So two things that I want to point out on this screen. We're going to talk about solicitations in a second, but when we talk about registering an eSupplier, that actually, this box here in the upper left-hand corner is exactly where you're going to want to go to register for eSupplier, where you can get help if you need help registering, and you can get additional information about how to register. So it's a fairly simple process, but it's initiated from this screen right here. But in this middle column where we have the current solicitation, so this list here are all the most recent solicitations that have been posted. But what I would typically recommend in order to kind of narrow in your search on the things that are most relevant to you is if you go to that search solicitations button at the bottom. And for our example today, we're going to search using the keyword consulting. All right, excellent. So a couple of things I want to point out here. When you search on a keyword search, or if you search by agency, you're going to get a very, it's a complete list of all sourcing events. So some of these are closed, as you can tell by the status. So we don't have a way in the system to only look at those things that are active. But the way that you'll know that they are is when Tandra scrolls down here, anything with a status of posted or awaiting responses means it is active, means you can still respond to it if you're interested. And your due date is right there on the right hand of that. So you know that this one is due July 28th. So if you see something and you're like, oh, that looks interesting, you can click on the link in blue there. So it's actually, yep, any one of those three. These are three very related solicitations. And then when you go to this page, you'll get to more information about the solicitation, including important dates that you want to be aware of, contact information, and then you'll also have the ability to download all of the events that you need that are related to this solicitation. So just wanted to use this opportunity to kind of introduce you to this website, but would highly encourage you to go out and explore it on your own and kind of see all of the various information available. Okay, and then next, once we can get back, we will take a look quickly. Oh, VendorNet, already there. Thanks, Tandra. Okay, so VendorNet, if you want to look for the bid opportunities, we're going to go across the top there and we're going to click on bids. And it has a very similar search feature to eSupplier. So we'll just use the same exact keyword. But what I'm going to ask Tandra to do before she hits enter is to click on that filter by box that says include eSupplier. So what we've done is we have drawn, and now if you hit enter, we have tried to bridge this gap. So we understand having two systems can sometimes be difficult for folks to remember where to go. So you could always just go to VendorNet. And Tandra, yep, if you scroll down, you'll see there, the very top, the same three events that we just saw on eSupplier. But in addition, if there were events that had been posted by, say, the City of Madison or the UW System Administration or any of the campuses, those events would also show here, and you would not see those in eSupplier. So while I think both systems serve a great purpose, if you want to just have the one place to go to search, you could always start with VendorNet. But both are available for you, and I would highly encourage you to get familiar with both of those systems. And then as soon as we got the presentation back up, I'll take back. Thank you, Tandra, for navigating for us. Okay, so as I said, regardless if you're going to respond to an event in eSupplier or VendorNet, you need to register an eSupplier. So that is our one main registration system. It is free. All you need is a valid email address, accurate company information, and then what we ask you to do is when you register, you have to select what we refer to as commodity codes, and that is what sort of categorizes the types and goods and services that you sell. So if you are consulting, you'd want to use consulting, any other commodity codes that might make sense to you, because when an agency or campus posts that solicitation, they are also then going to assign commodity codes to the solicitation. And that is the trigger for the system to know which vendors to send those announcements to. So you can sign up for as many commodity codes as you want. Just know that if you sign up for a lot that don't have anything to do with you, you're going to get inundated with these notices, but that's okay. There's no harm in signing up for as many codes as you want. All right, next slide. So Tandra mentioned this, so I'll only kind of cover this very briefly, but as she indicated in her part of the presentation, we do have the 5% spend goal with MBEs and the 1% spend goal with DVBs in what we refer to as Chapter 16 spend, which is just another way of saying general goods and services. We do have the 5% permissive preference, as Tandra talked about. So as she indicated, that what that preference does is allows a Wisconsin certified MBE or DVB to have a bid that is no more than 5% higher than the apparent low bid, or in a proposal situation where we're looking at points as opposed to just cost, your proposal could be no more than 5% lower in points than the apparent highest point proposer, and you could still be awarded for that proposal. So there is real benefit to becoming certified when you're responding to state opportunities. But also, as Tandra mentioned, in thinking about whether or not certification is right for your business, it's also, I think, important to think about is when you're looking at these opportunities, is it the right fit for your business? And so here are just some kind of general tips about maybe how to figure that out. So the first thing I would recommend is, kind of fully review the scope of the solicitation and the contract requirements to ensure it's a good fit for your business's capabilities. A lot of that general background and introduction information is located right away at the beginning of the document to just give you a full sense of what it is the state wants to buy. Really be careful in looking at those mandatory requirements. Mandatory requirements, and they will be identified as such, are sort of the deal breaker must-haves that a bidder must have before they could be considered for an award. So these can include things like the length and type of experience that you have, any licensure that might be required. So it's important to know what those mandatory requirements are to make sure that it is something that you could do. And then another thing to think about, though, is that if you're looking at the scope of the solicitation and it's broader than what you have the experience to do, look if the solicitation identifies that subcontracting would be allowed, because maybe either you could subcontract with another vendor to perform part of it, or you could be another vendor's subcontractor to perform part of it, but maybe not all of the service. And then what we like to talk about, next slide, please, is just a really high level, just maybe some general guidelines for do's and don'ts when responding to bid opportunities. And I think you'll hear some other presenters share some similar information when they're on next. But first and foremost, carefully review and follow all the instructions. It is paramount in the state of Wisconsin that we ensure that our solicitation process is fair and it's equitable to all potential bidders. And the way that we achieve that is ensuring that all vendors receive the exact same information in the same format and at the same time as all others. And we do that through our solicitation documents. That is our vehicle for communicating our needs as well as your requirements to respond. So it's important that you review and follow those instructions. Be sure to ask questions. If there's unclear, insufficient information, ask questions, but make sure you do so by following the process that's outlined in the bid. Note all the deadlines, including the deadline for when to ask questions by. Pay particular attention to the due date. We in Wisconsin cannot accept a bid that is even a minute late. We have no exceptions for that, so make sure your bid is in on time. And then make sure you submit all required documents exactly in the format that's prescribed. On the flip side then, we always ask that you don't assume that you're ever going to get the opportunity to answer questions or provide any clarifying information. So make sure then that you're answering all questions fully in the format that's prescribed. Don't communicate with anyone about the bid outside of the process that's been provided in the bid. This is very important because, again, to ensure consistent and equitable treatment of all vendors, we make sure all communication is handled in a very specific way, and we'll tell you about that in the bid. And then lastly, don't wait until the last minute. As I said, if the bid is due at 2 p.m., we cannot accept a bid that comes in at 2:01. So you want to plan for any possible technical or logistical challenges in submitting your bid. So please don't wait till the last minute. And then I wanted to leave you with contact information. So if you have any sort of general questions about anything that I just talked about, or you want more information on registering as a bidder, you can reach out to either the email address or the phone number listed here. Both of those are monitored by a team in the State Bureau of Procurement and can be a great resource for you with any questions that you might have. So that concludes my portion. Thank you very much. And I will be turning it over to Audra.
Thank you, Cheryl. My name is Audra Jervey, and I am an Enterprise Contract Officer with the Division of Facilities Development. The Division of Facilities Development manages the state building program, and we're going to first talk about architecture and engineering opportunities with the state. So we have 3 different project types, and those types of projects are determined by the total project budget. So first we have small projects, which is any project that has a budget up to $300,000. So this includes smaller projects, studies, investigations, things that are time sensitive. Our next project category is something we call monthly projects. And this is a big range of projects. This is anything that has a total budget between $300,000 and $7.4 million. So this is renovations, mechanical upgrades, that sort of thing. And then lastly, we have major projects. So this is any state building project that has a total budget of more than $7.4 million. So this is your new academic buildings or your very large scale renovations. So where can you find these opportunities? So our solicitations are available on our website. Our link is up here, and I've highlighted small projects, monthly selection, and major project selection. Small projects are not publicly posted on our website. However, you can view information about our small project program there. And then we have our monthly selection and our major selection. And this little snapshot is showing you what our major selection solicitation looks like. So when we have active projects, you would just navigate there and download all of the supplemental documents and the solicitation materials to determine if it's something that you and your firm are interested in. So what are the requirements to pursue architect and engineering opportunities? So we have no DFD certification. You must, however, meet your professional license requirements. So if you're an architect or engineer, you must be licensed with the state of Wisconsin. And if you have any questions about that, you can visit the Department of Safety and Professional Services website. What we do require is that you have a DFD WISBuild account, and WISBuild is our current project management system. So this is something that you would register for. It is not a self-registration. So if you don't have a WISBuild account and you are interested in having one, here is the email that you can send your information to, and we can get you set up. And just a little note that later this year, our WISBuild system will be replaced with a new project management system. So based on the project type, we have a different selection process. So for small projects, again, anything under $300,000, these are simply delegated, meaning the agency and our DFD project manager simply select an architect or engineering for the work. For monthly projects, the process is a public solicitation, and then firms interested would submit a letter of interest via our WISBuild system. The agency and the DFD project manager review all the letters of interest. We then have a selection committee, which makes a recommendation for a selected firm to our DOA secretary, who makes the final decision. And for major projects, an interested firm or team of firms would submit a formal qualification submission. So it's sort of like a very, very robust letter of interest. Firms that are qualified and that have made our shortlisting would be invited to an interview process. And then similarly, the AE selection committee makes recommendations that are approved by the DOA secretary. So unlike the goods and services that Cheryl just discussed and construction contracts, which Matt will discuss here in a minute, because architecture and engineering selections are qualification based, there is no permissive preference given to MBE, DVB, or WBE suppliers. MBE, DVB, and WBE suppliers are highly encouraged, however, to pursue architecture and engineering projects, whether that's as the prime AE or as a subconsultant or as part of a team. And as Cheryl just mentioned, we have the same goals, however, so we still do have a goal of 5% MBE participation and 1% DVB participation. And women-owned business enterprises do not currently count towards our minority involvement goals, but of course, women-owned businesses are highly encouraged to pursue work with the Division of Facilities Development. So here are our do's and don'ts for pursuing architecture and engineering projects. So some successful strategies, most importantly, is to express interest and be persistent. So the very first time that you submit a letter of interest, you might not be selected for a project, but I promise you, if you're persistent, eventually you'll get work with the state. We want to award projects to folks that want projects, that want to work on state building projects. So be persistent. Get to know agencies, institutions, and our project managers in your area of expertise, also in your area of the state. So if you're maybe a civil engineer, for instance, we can put you in touch with civil engineers in our division. If you are based in La Crosse, for instance, maybe it's helpful to meet with some staff at UW La Crosse, that sort of thing. Ask for feedback for awarded projects and non-awarded projects. So if you're not awarded projects, you want to know why, what you can do to improve in the future. And then also for awarded projects, it's helpful to know what you did well so that you can continue doing that. Monitor evaluation scores and your DFD workload. You are scored on active projects at different stages throughout the project, so make sure that those scores are good. And then just monitor your DFD workload. If you have too many DFD projects, it's unlikely that you'll be selected for additional projects until those complete. Be proactive in addressing concerns. And you heard this again, or you heard this previously and you'll hear this again, but be communicative. And lastly, of course, perform well. Just do a good job. If you're awarded a project, perform well. And then lastly, some common mistakes or some don'ts. So number one, submissions, whether that's letter of interest or your qualification submission, are not received on time. Again, we cannot accept late submissions. So number one, submit on time. Letters of interest are not tailored to a specific project or too generic. So for instance, we might have 5 roofing projects out for solicitation in a given month. If you submit the same letter of interest for every project, it's not showing the division that you're tailoring these and that you understand the individual project. So make sure that you have specific letters of interest for each project. The next one is that the minimum project qualifications are not met. So again, make sure you're reading the solicitation materials carefully and that you qualify for the project. Firm has not introduced themselves to our staff. So this isn't inherently a mistake, but it's unlikely or more difficult that you would be selected for a project if our division doesn't know who you are. So maybe you're new to state work. Reach out, make an introduction so that we can put a face to a name and a firm. And then lastly, a firm has not addressed or resolved poor past performance. So if you maybe receive low evaluation scores or you didn't perform as well on past projects, make sure you find out how you can improve so that you have a chance to be selected for projects in the future. And that's it for architecture and engineering. If you have any questions, here's my contact information, email and phone number, and I know that this will be provided to you tomorrow. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt to discuss construction contracts.
Thank you, Audra. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Kleila, and I'm the Contractor Certification Analyst for DFD. Today, I will discuss the construction opportunities for the state of Wisconsin. This is a list of types of construction projects available through the state. University campus projects consist of student housing, educational buildings, athletic fields, and stadiums. Administrative facilities are office or professional buildings for any of the state agencies. Correctional and health service institutions. Natural resources would include any of the many parks, forests, or hatcheries within the state. Military and veteran affairs consist of readiness centers, transportation ports, hospitals, and nursing homes. Historical society projects are any historical landmarks or significant historical places around the state. And any of these projects could be new construction, repairs or renovations, or upgrades or improvements. So this website is where you'll find those construction opportunities, and you can find this page with the link listed here or by simply searching Wisconsin State Projects Out for Bid. So I'll kind of walk you through these columns one by one. The first is the project number, and that's how you would refer to the project. The next one is when the plans are available. And this one's important because it also has a link for plan holders. And if you choose to accept yes, when you pull plans, other contractors can see that you're interested in that project and your contact information is available and you can get a hold of each other that way. The next column is bid date. So that's when the project's bid opening is. And then after that is the project title. And this is the live link to access drawings and specs. So that's how you get all the information for the project. And then next to that is the agency, institution, and building. And this just gives you more information about the project, including the location. And then after that is the architect or engineer of the project. And then you'll have your estimated construction cost. And that gives contractors kind of an idea of the capacity of the project. And then after that, you'll have your project manager for each project. And that's also a live link. So if you click on that, you'll get their contact information if you have any specific questions. And then the final two categories involve the pre-bid tour, the date of that tour, and if it's mandatory or not. So contractor certification, we'll review who needs it, what are the application requirements, and how to apply. Okay, so contractors bidding directly on construction projects over 50,000 will need to apply for certification. This also includes all general prime contractors and contractors who perform the following divisions of work: fire protection, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, roofing, and asbestos abatement. Second tier subcontractors who do not bid directly to the state are not required to be certified. So here are some of the main requirements if you do decide to apply for certification. Your company must be in business for at least 12 months. You must have completed at least one project for a government entity, and that would be any federal, state, county, or municipality project. If you don't have one of those, we will consider a nonprofit public project, and that would be an elementary school, a high school, technical college, hospitals and clinics, and even religious buildings. And then you'll need to provide 2 references if you've never previously held a contract with DOA. And my suggestion there is to provide just project managers or architects. Contractors like to provide presidents and owners of companies, and they're hard to get a hold of. And then lastly, include a bonding letter from your bonding company that states your single per project bonding limit. The 2 best ways to apply for certification are to email us directly at dfdcertification@wisconsin.gov or visit our website. And this web address is included in all our project specifications, so you'll be able to access the application if you pull plans for any project. Okay, now you're certified. So how do you bid state construction projects? So the main takeaway from this slide is the difference in subcontracting between projects greater than 300,000 and those that are under or equal to 300,000. So if the project is greater than 300,000, the MEP subcontractor submits their bid 2 weeks prior to the general prime contractor bid. Certification is required for these subcontractors. And then the state identifies the lowest qualified bidder for each MEP division of work for the GPC to use on their bid. All other non-MEP subcontractors are selected by the GPC. Certification is not required for these subcontractors. Now, if the project is less than or equal to 300,000, prime contractors submit their bid using their own selected subcontractors. Certification is not required for subcontractors who do not bid directly to the state, and subcontractors may obtain a WISBILD account to appear on plan holders lists for projects they are interested in. And that's what I referred to earlier on our Projects Out for Bid website. Next slide, please, Tandra. Okay, you've submitted a bid. So how does the MBE DVB preference work? So DFD awards the contract to the lowest qualified, responsible, certified bidder. If a minority business enterprise or a disabled veteran-owned business submits a bid within 5% of that low bid, under Wisconsin state statute, DFD may award a contract to the MBE DVB if the business is a qualified, responsible, certified bidder. And this pertains to all general prime, single trade, and small projects. This does not apply to MEP bids. So here's an example of how the bid preference works. Let's say you have a project and the low bid comes in at 100,000 and the MBE DVB bidder comes in at 104,000. Well, 5% of the low bid would be 5,000. So the MBE DVB bidder is within that window. So both contractors are considered for the project. There's a vetting process to ensure both firms' capacity, and the MBE DVB bidder is awarded the contract if all requirements are met. So here are some tips on how to successfully bid on state projects. Visit the DOA website frequently. The website is always being updated with new projects, so make sure you are actively pursuing those opportunities. Review project plans and specs thoroughly. It will increase your chances of submitting a competitive bid the more educated and familiar you are with the specs. Allow sufficient time to submit bids. Bids that aren't submitted on time will be rejected. And then finally, ask questions. If you're not sure about something, contact us. We are more than happy to help. On the contrary, here are some things to avoid. When bids are not delivered or emailed on time, this is the #1 reason bids are rejected. So make sure you get them in on time. Bids contain unsolicited information. Keep it simple. Follow the bidding documents and specs and only submit what is requested. Addendums are not acknowledged. If something changes with the project, make sure you know about it and address it with your bid. And finally, make sure your bid is complete. Include all pages and don't forget to sign all bid forms. And with that, if you have any questions regarding state construction projects, here's my contact information. And I want to thank everyone for their time and attention. And I believe now we are going to open it up for questions.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you to our presenters. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so it's about 4:51. We do have some questions that have already been dropped in the chat, so I'll go ahead and pose them to the group. First question is, are LGBT plus owned businesses considered minority owned businesses in the state of Wisconsin?
So I'm going to address the question from the standpoint of certification, because that's my wheelhouse. We do not have a current LGBT certification with the state of Wisconsin.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to add to that answer?
No.
All right, hearing none. Another question is, if a firm is certified by another entity, do you have to complete everything on the checklist to be DOA certified?
Okay, I'll just stay unmuted. So it depends on which certification it is. If you are certified as a disabled or a disadvantaged business enterprise, either through DOT, the OBIC office, or City of Madison, Dane County, Milwaukee County, any of those, we have a substantially equivalent application that you would not have to complete all the forms. You could just show us your DBE certification, and then there's a very streamlined process for you to become certified with the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question that we got is, what type of outreach are you doing to diverse agencies to engage them in applying for the program? And also, second part of that question is, and I've gotten to some other folks about this webinar being repeated or made available. And just to reiterate, like, we'll be sending out copies of the slide and recordings of this webinar to everybody who was on this call, but then we'll also be posting them to our YouTube channel and on the web that people can go and access and share, so that people who could not make it on the call today would be able to have access to the information. But the other question was, what type of outreach are you doing to diverse agencies to engage them in applying for the program?
Thank you. That's a great question. So in the Supplier Diversity Program, I probably do probably 2 to 4 webinars every month. And so we really try to work with entities that are working with our diverse businesses, places such as any of the diverse chambers. We reach out to them when they have events. We try to attend and network with our businesses. And so as a result of that, we're seeing some extreme growth. I would say in the last couple years, We've grown the number of certifications, probably by about 20% or so. And so if you have an agency or entity that is interested in having us come and present and explain our program, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay. And I'm going to jump down some other questions I've received. For construction, is certification the same thing as licensing?
Sorry about that. It is not. Licensing goes through the Department of Safety and Professional Services. And this certification is to only bid on Department of Administration projects.
Thank you. Another question that just came in is, given the passing of the interior design legislation allowing registered interior designers to sign and stamp drawings within the defined scope of interior design, would the state consider a category of awards for these projects, or would they fall under the architecture category?
I'll attempt that one. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't know that we don't solicit for specifically interior design projects. So as far as our division and soliciting for AE projects, that would be something that would be a part of a project. So you'd be like a sub-consultant to a prime architect or engineer. I'm not sure beyond that if the state has considered a separate category for those kinds of awards.
Okay. I'm going to circle back to another question that was in the queue, which is, this was more about who somebody would go to, which is if they wanted to discuss the potential of having a central search engine for vendors who are certified to search for and respond to grant opportunities, who would be their best point of contact, at least to start with?
So I would say that question specifically refers to grants, and none of us are speaking to grants today. This is about contracts with the state of Wisconsin. However, in the Department of Administration, there is a website, I believe, regarding the bounce back grant opportunities that are given by the governor's office. And so I would encourage you to search for bounce back grants for Wisconsin, and there should be a wealth of information concerning grants.
Okay. And we've got time, I'd say, for maybe one more question. And one that we received here is, for a WBE, if I've been in business for 3 years, but have had a business name change, the parentheses, services have not changed, could I still qualify?
I would say that you could still qualify. We need to look at your documentation though, to verify all of the information. If you have good documentation of the name change and the services or goods are the same, it's highly likely that you could be qualified. But we would need to review the documentation.
Okay. All right. It's about 4:58. And I've got one more question, then I'll have to kind of move us on, is do we have bilingual staff?
In the Supplier Diversity Program, we do not have bilingual staff. If there are staff or there are businesses interested in the bilingual language, we can access a service that the state of Wisconsin has. And I also want to point out on our website, we do have translation available for the information for supplier diversity.
Okay. And with that, I do have to kind of move us into the next stage of the presentation. Also a reminder, we will be sending out kind of a follow-up email to everyone who was on this call tomorrow, or we plan to do it tomorrow. So if you didn't get your question, if you weren't able to pose your question today, like, please feel free to just respond back, and then we can kind of answer your question that way. And with that, we'll move into just a quick overview from Wisconsin Saves.
Hi, this is Carolyn Pemberton. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time at the end of your meeting today. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention a special initiative that's going on in Milwaukee, and to encourage as many small business owners to participate. So this is an opportunity to gain access to some free resources that you can use as a business owner to encourage any employees that you have to save automatically. We're trying to help Milwaukee and Wisconsin residents increase their ability to withstand financial shocks. And one way to do that is through automatic savings when they get paid. And so we have a number of resources that are available to business owners, employers, that they can use to help communicate with their employees about saving through split deposit. All of it is free and very easy to use. You don't have to create anything. They're really plug and play resources. And we can share those with you through a link that I realized I didn't put on this slide. So I'm gonna put it in the chat, and I'm doing it right now, sorry. And that will give you access to these resources that you can use to help communicate with any employees that you have about saving through their paycheck in order to build up emergency savings accounts. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for this segment of the presentation? All right. Hearing none, we're nearing the end of it. Senator, did you have any kind of closing remarks or any final thoughts you'd like to share with the folks for the call today? Senator, you're on mute.
You would think I'd know how to work this by now. But I just want to say thank you so much for all of those who attended. I hope something was said that you can take away and use for your business, but also that will help you to help. Thank you again, and for being here, and I hope this information helped.
All right. That concludes our program for today, and thank you again, everyone, for participating. And as I said, we plan to make this webinar available online through our website and social media channels, and look for a follow email from us from that DOA communications@wisconsin.gov, likely tomorrow. So thank you again, everybody, and have a great day.